Ever wondered how one man's ambition could reshape an entire continent? Let's travel back to the 1st century BC, to a time when Gaul, modern-day France, was a rich, complex patchwork of tribes. They were civilized, they had cities, they even minted their own coins. But they were also divided. This is the story of how Julius Caesar, a man drowning in debt but overflowing with ambition, exploited those divisions to conquer Gaul and change the course of history forever. In 59 BC, Julius Caesar wasn't yet the legendary figure we know. He was a politician with a serious cash flow problem. To solve it, he secured a military command over the provinces bordering Gaul. He needed a war, and a war is what he got. The official story? He was defending Rome from migrating tribes and Germanic invaders. The real story? He was building a political career and paying off his creditors. This wasn't just a border dispute, it was a hostile takeover, masterfully disguised as a defensive campaign. So, who were the players in this epic conflict? On one side, you have the Roman military machine. Think of a legion as a 5,000-man engine of war, disciplined, standardized, and masters of siege engineering. They weren't just soldiers, they were builders, capable of constructing bridges and fortresses in record time. Their key strength was fighting as a single, cohesive unit. On the other side, you had the Gallic warriors. They were taller, individually braver, and had superior cavalry. Their swords were longer, giving them a reach advantage. But they fought as individuals, not as a unified army. This fundamental difference, collective discipline versus individual prowess, would be the deciding factor in almost every battle. The wars began in 58 BC when a tribe called the Helvetii wanted to migrate through Roman territory. Caesar said no, then promptly attacked them. It was a completely unprovoked act of aggression. After defeating them at the Battle of Bibracte, he turned his attention to a Germanic king, Ariovistus, a man the Roman Senate had just called a friend and ally. Caesar crushed him too. In 1 year, he had defeated 2 of Rome's most feared enemies, cementing his reputation as a military genius back home. With his initial victories secured, Caesar's goal shifted to consolidation. He needed plunder to keep his legions paid and his political profile high. In 57 BC, he marched north against the Belgae, a powerful tribal confederation. At the Battle of the Sabes, he was ambushed and nearly defeated. It was a rookie mistake. He hadn't set up a proper guard while his men were building camp. The Roman lines were collapsing until Caesar himself charged into the fray, rallying his men. The discipline of his famed 10th Legion held, and they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. The next year, he faced the seafaring Veneti. Their sturdy oak ships dominated the Atlantic coast. So, Caesar did what Romans did best. He innovated. His men used long poles with grappling hooks to snag the enemy's sails, immobilizing their ships. It turned a naval battle into a land battle on water, and the Romans annihilated them. To send a message, he executed their leaders and sold the entire population into slavery. By 55 BC, Caesar's focus was less on Gaul and more on his image in Rome. He needed to outshine his political rivals, Pompey and Crassus. So, he staged 2 of the greatest publicity stunts in history. First, he built a massive timber bridge across the Rhine River in just 10 days, marched his army into Germania, then marched back and dismantled it. The message was clear. No natural barrier could stop Rome. Then he did something no Roman had ever done. He invaded Britain. Not once, but twice. These expeditions yielded little actual wealth, but the propaganda value was immense. Landing an army on that mysterious island at the edge of the known world made him a living legend. But while Caesar was busy building his brand, resentment in Gaul was boiling over. The strain of feeding tens of thousands of Roman soldiers combined with a bad harvest pushed the Gauls to their breaking point. A chieftain named Ambiorix cleverly tricked a Roman commander into leaving his fort, then ambushed and annihilated an entire legion. It was a massive blow. In response, Caesar unleashed a new, brutal strategy in 53 BC. He stopped fighting big battles and started a campaign of terror. His legions systematically burned villages, stole livestock, and destroyed crops. He wasn't trying to defeat the Gallic armies anymore. He was trying to destroy their ability to survive. Northern Gaul was left essentially flattened. Caesar's brutality was the final straw. He had declared Gaul a Roman province, and now a charismatic leader named Vercingetorix rose to unite the fractured tribes. For the first time, Caesar faced a unified Gallic army, and his entire political future was on the line. Vercingetorix was smart. He used a scorched earth strategy, trying to starve the Romans out. He won a major victory at the Battle of Gergovia, a rare and embarrassing defeat for Caesar, but the final showdown came at a hill fort called Alesia. Here, Caesar's engineering genius was on full display. He surrounded the fort with his army, then built two massive lines of fortifications, one facing inward to trap Vercingetorix, and one facing outward to block a Gallic relief army. His legions were simultaneously the besiegers and the besieged. In a spectacular and brutal battle, they fought off attacks from both sides and starved Vercingetorix into surrender. With the Great Revolt crushed, Caesar spent the next 2 years mopping up the last pockets of resistance. At the final siege of Uxellodunum, he made a horrific example of the defeated defenders. He didn't kill them. He had their hands cut off and sent them out to wander Gaul as a living warning against future rebellion. The war was over. Gaul would remain under Roman rule for nearly 500 years, and its culture would merge with Rome's, even giving birth to the French language. For Rome, the conquest secured its northern frontier along the Rhine River. And for Caesar, he emerged from the war fabulously wealthy and with an unstoppable, loyal army. This power allowed him to march on Rome, win the ensuing civil war, and effectively end the Roman Republic, paving the way for the Roman Empire. So, how do we know all this? Mostly from one source, Caesar's own book, the commentaries on the Gallic War. And that's a problem. Modern historians see it not as objective history, but as a brilliant piece of propaganda. He likely exaggerated enemy numbers to make his victories seem more impressive, and consistently portrayed himself as a reluctant hero defending Rome from savage barbarians. But even if his numbers were inflated and his motives were self-serving, one thing is undeniable. Caesar was a brilliant, ruthless, and visionary commander. He was a strategic genius and one of history's greatest propagandists, a man who not only conquered a nation, but also wrote the story of that conquest himself, ensuring his legend would echo through the ages. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this dive into history interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next video. See you next time.